We are back on the show. John Pollock here with John Ramdine and Robin Black. Of course, Daniel Cormier out of UFC 206 due to a pair of injuries, one to his knee as well as suffering a hernia. So this is obviously, John, going to bring up the debate once again with AKA. This comes off of Luke Rockhold also being eliminated from his fight with Jacare, the rematch in Australia. AKA has always been a camp that is kind of people have looked at, I think, with a harsher eye than other camps because there have been a lot of injuries at AKA and they have changed their training along the ways, but is this going to reignite that debate, so to speak, when it comes to AKA?
Cain Velasquez, heavyweight champion of the world at one point. Daniel Cormier, the light heavyweight champion. Luke Rockhold, the middleweight champion. Josh Thompson, Strikeforce lightweight champion. I mean, in order to get to the top of the mountain, you got to push yourself as hard as humanly possible, and this is the byproduct. Daniel Cormier is no spring chicken. He's been through the ringer, whether it was in wrestling competition and now mixed martial arts. He's closer to 40 than he is 30, so these are the things that are going to happen.
So we sit down 10 or 15 or 20 young prospects, first couple of fights in the UFC, and we say, what are your goals? I want to be the UFC champion. What are you willing to do to get there? I'm willing to do anything. End of story. They're the best camp going. I mean, now, some guy sitting somewhere who's never trained a day in his life who, analyzes numbers. And good job by Michael Hutchinson over at Bloody Elbow writing this. I was chatting with him. He's also working on a winning percentages of all of the major camps, too. That's going to be really interesting. But, this was the goal. And most everybody will say, at all costs, no matter what. Now, later, people will be like, what about your future? What about your health? What about... No, I said at all costs. I said I wanted to win at all costs. I want to be the champion no matter what it took. And this is what it takes.
I think that you look at this, and this is always going to be the balancing act of camps, is that I think you've learned a lot. I don't think you're seeing camps that are going crazy with live sparring to the degree they were even 3 or 4 years ago as compared to today. But you have to be working at this level. And I mean, I've been to AKA and seen their sparring, but I don't think anyone can really look inside there and have a true look at their training methods unless you are a fighter inside any of these camps where, I mean, the days of the shoot-a-box days are over, and I think that's progress, but you can't taper off to a certain degree where you're not competing at that level. And many coaches have many different philosophies about what is the most effective way, but there's going to be wear and tear along the way. And hopefully it's not profound or compounded over a long period of time, but it's going to be there. That's inevitable.
Yeah, and I mean, you're saying the wear and tear. A lot of these guys like Cain Velasquez and Daniel Cormier, you have to acknowledge their wrestling background as well. A lot of these athletes went through the grind and beat their bodies up for years and years and years before they ever made that transition to mixed martial arts. So these guys aren't coming in fresh as a daisy. They're all already coming in with battle scars. And just to think about that, they've already gone through, this type of competition, and to be able to become UFC champion, whether you're Cormier, Rockhold, or Cain Velasquez, is pretty friggin' remarkable.
And that ties in, sorry Robin, but that does tie into what we were discussing earlier, the fact that you look at AKA and the names you listed off and the amount of 5-round fights that they're preparing for. So when an Anthony Pettis and a Max Holloway, we just think, oh, well, it was 3, now it's 5 rounds. Cool, it's 10 more minutes. Like, look at the differences, and I haven't studied all of them, but you can look at training for a 5-round fight versus 3, you're doing that much more. Yeah. And asking more of your body. And that's what Anthony Pettis and Max Holloway are being asked to do on 2 weeks' notice.
I have friends that work in business and technology, and they have the saying, the market says how things work. The market is undeniable. The market will either accept your thing or your product or whatever it is you sell, or it will reject it. And it's the same thing in any kind of thing when you take a 30,000 foot view. These guys were winners, all of them. It was undeniable. This is the way. Well, they were winners. None of them are Dan's a champ. Actually, Dan's the undisputed champion now that the interim, that's a whole other conversation. But Dan is still the champ and the other two are not. If Dan gets so injured that he can fight no longer, or these guys train and miss more fights and never become the champ again and no one comes from that gym, well, other people with a new training methodology start winning. The market decides. The environment decides. It tells you what works. And the only way that you can go and try to predict the future future and create a scenario in which you guys win in the future is disrupt that thinking. So you do something different. And the something different right now is training less hard. If that leads to more champions, then that'll be the new way.
The final thing on this is that if I were to tell you the end of 2017, Cain Velasquez is your heavyweight champion, Daniel Cormier is your light heavyweight champion, Rockhold middleweight champion, Nurmagomedov lightweight champion.
Nobody be surprised.
That's not a crazy statement. That's not a crazy forecast to make of 4 champions you could have under one roof at one time.
If we said that 2 of those would be champions and 2 of those would be out with injuries, we wouldn't be surprised either. That's the game they're playing. That's the risk they're taking. They are risk-taking. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. They push their body to the limit, and it has proven to work. And a bunch of people sitting around in offices or watching fights for fun can speculate on what they think is better or worse. But the proof is in the pudding.
What will it take, though? Will it take? I mean, you look at American Top Team, for example. Nunes is a champion. Joanna Jędrzejczyk recently moved there. Tyron Woodley, a part of that American Top Team as well. When you look at their success, and then you look at Straight Blast Gym, where you have Connor, does it take a couple of champions for people to say, okay, that's the championship mentality? Because again, when you look at ATT and Jacek just got there, Tyron Woodley has his own academy, and Amanda Nunes is kind of built in-house.
Yeah, and how many numbers do you need to see to prove a concept? Demetrius Johnson and Matt Hume, they have built the best fighter in the world currently, and should he go and show that again next weekend, or this weekend, I guess, it'll be undeniable, but that's one. But man, their system is good. They train less. He rests more. Their whole thing is different. If they reproduce that 3 or 4 times, it would be undeniable. AKA has reproduced that a number of times.
All right, so Daniel Cormier will be recovering from his surgery and then will hopefully be defending the title against Anthony Johnson sometime in early 2017.